I thought that I knew all I needed to know about Miguel Arruda, but we are entering our third consecutive episode of Miguel Watch, of Luggage Gate, of talking about the only politician in Portugal we endorse. We don't know anything about any of his other positions. Don't tell us. Miguel Arruda, I promise, I cross my heart, we will stop doing Miguel Arruda updates at the beginning of every episode.
Those kind of promises, Riley.
I promise we will stop doing it when Portuguese-speaking listeners stop sending us funny stuff about him.
Wait until he starts doing some flexos.
Shouts out to our Portuguese-speaking fans in Portugal, fans in Brazil, fans in Angola, fans in Mozambique.
Our hogs de nata, if you will.
Yes. If you are a Lusophone, then we want to hear from you about this guy. So the update is, number one, I have a now proof positive photo evidence confirmed, no AI. The man dresses like John Fetterman. That's hilarious.
Amazing. João Fetterman.
Well, the thing is, there are specimens everywhere for those with the eyes to see.
Number two is that apparently his sort of, I don't know, let's call it congressional for now.
Sure.
Office in the sort of Portuguese parliament was a pigsty because it was filled with luggage.
Yep. Amazing.
I saw included in this a photo of the office which just had a bunch of stacked suitcases that looked like they came from an airport because they did.
How did nobody suspect this guy? This is if your crime is stealing luggage, it's like you are walking around just leaving a trail of evidence for like a child detective to solve.
No one who is a luggage thief would have an office full of luggage at their work. That would be crazy.
Look, there goes Miguel Arruda. Looks like he brought another suitcase again. Smart.
I also wondering, like, does this seem so middling that it doesn't even register amongst, let's call it, the gumshoe investigative reporters of Portugal as like a serious enough crime for anyone to care about? Like, what kind of crime factory is Portugal? Like, what kind of scams and deals? What kind of geezerism is going on over there?
Yeah. Whatever the Portuguese is for all the president's men, and it's just a team of Woodward and Bernstjau are like they're looking into all of these luggage thefts. They've got a huge corkboard.
One thing, the funniest part of this to me is that they found out that his office was full of suitcases, and he shared that office with another MP who was like, I guess it was kind of weird, but I had a lot of other stuff going on, I was busy.
This is how you know that this is not a British workplace, because the whole story would have been broken just by various colleagues in Britain calling him like Samsonite. Oh yeah, fucking Antler over here. Yeah, what's in there today, son?
We've all got one colleague who brings in a new item of luggage every day. Were they just in a kind of the apartment situation where they had like tape down the middle of it, and they're like, okay, that's your side where you can do just whatever, just bring in more like Louis Vuitton or something.
Yeah. Oh yeah, fucking Wheelie, he's off today, yeah.
I see the luggage knots is in. Shag any bags today, Arruda?
Bag shagger!
Miguel. No, the last thing I want to say before we move on, though, is, and this is going to be the outro music for the episode, is that he has garnered enough haters in Portugal that a song has been made about him stealing luggage from the airport.
I mean, say what you will, he'll probably get on quite well when he's out of politics. Like, going to Saudi might be a good shout for him.
Just opening a suitcase. My God, it's horrible in here.
He's stolen several reporters from the airport without realizing that's what he's done.
Yeah, that's how he got caught. They're like, Miguel, some of these suitcases in your office kind of smell.
Yeah. They wrote him a song though. It's like the world's lowest stakes narco corrido, right?
It's the world's lowest stakes musical beef is the Travelers of Portugal versus Miguel Arruda. All right, look, I promise, like I said, there will not be any Miguel Arruda content to begin the next episode unless something new, funny happens, or I find out something funny, or I feel like it. The other thing...
Yeah, that's an ironclad promise. You can take that to the bank. You can take that to the airport.
To be fair, it is ironclad. It is. I cannot break that promise. It is impossible for me to do.
No, what if you're talking about Miguel Arruda, but nothing new has arisen, and also you really don't feel like it, but you're forcing yourself to?
Being held at gunpoint. Talk about the song.
Yeah, Miguel Arruda's hitman is holding you at gunpoint.
Yeah, I love attention. Talk about me again.
If you want to see your suitcase again, you talk about Miguel Arruda.
Yeah, I can take it. I'm a big boy. It's like a roast. He's holding a gun. Another note is this is actually a little bit of old news. I've been meaning to talk about it for a while, but it keeps getting bumped. Which is I have several pipes. You may believe. It's one of the pipes. It's called Neom, and it's like worn almost like the flap where I go in to grab the content, worn almost to a nub.
Yeah.
There's another pipe, Miguel Arruda, recently installed. There's another pipe called Venice.
Okay, sure.
It's like a series of tubes.
Just lagoon water just coming out of it because there's an overflow.
Ted Stevens didn't know what he was onto, but the deep state still killed him by crashing his plane, because the tubes metaphor was too accurate.
I've been saying for a long time that what the British left needed was a podcast that's weirdly focused on Venetian like local happenings.
And like power broker senators from Alaska who decide to just die in plane crashes in the 2000s.
Yeah. He was too right about the internet. No. Which is, of course, Donald Trump Jr., the son who is out, the out son.
Wait, he's the gay one?
He's trying to, frequently tries to get into his father's good graces by engaging in game hunting.
That's such a fucking 15th century sentence. That like, the son that the king doesn't like is going hunting in Venice to try and like win his approval back.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna take it a little further. It's like 15th century and like the Umayyad Caliphate, basically. It's like, the disgraced son of the caliph has to go out to the deserts to kill like a rare bustard to prove his manliness, Yeah. It's like because people have been writing poems about how much of a bitch he is.
My pathetic son has brought me a rare boar. It's a beautiful boar, but I'm not gonna give him a good duchy. He doesn't deserve a good duchy. He'd make a mess of it. I know that he had one of the footmen shoot this boar. I'm not stupid, okay? He can't hold the crossbow. Look at him. Look at the way he holds it. It's so effeminate.
Midden's Advent is predominantly talking about Venetian hunting and like a Portuguese like counselor who stole a bunch of pilgrims' luggage. He's just been going up to the carts and he's just been taking stuff.
Yeah, we're riffing on the idea of Ibn Battuta arguing with his footmen, but for some reason they all have Saxon accents when he's doing the voices.
What if a Saxon guy was Muslim?
No, the caliph's not going to like that. I wouldn't show him that if I were you, no.
Should I give him a county in the Romagna? Should I give him something in the Romagna? It's where all the stupid people have the counties. No one good's in Emilia-Romagna. No one good's in Umbria. It's Europe's dumping ground for dumbasses.
I'm going to give him a county right next to Piers Gaveston. Okay, I think they'll get along very well, if you know what I mean.
I think they've got a lot to talk about. Why did I say, hey, I'll make him a bishop, but I won't make him a bishop of anywhere good. I'll make him a bishop, but it's a bishopric in the Holy Land. Let's see you defend that, Don Jr.
Maybe I can make him Pope, but it's going to be Avignon. Okay. You want to be Clement IV? Okay, all right.
Okay, a note from Venice. Donald Trump Jr. has betrayed the honor of his house by killing an endangered duck while hunting in the Venetian lagoon.
Oh, no.
Well, first of all, who goes to Venice to hunt?
Oh, pretty nice duck you've got there. Endangered.
You missed that duck, you're going to hit one of like 50 cruise ships. The other thing is like, this is him returning to the mean, right? This is his natural like stoopiness coming out, where it's like someone like this should be being pursued by the Italian like hunting and forestry cops. And I hope they do that. I hope they catch him and I hope they jail him.
Yeah, all of them are like carabinieri from like the part of Italy where everyone speaks German and wears the hats. Like,
getting arrested by like 50 guys who sound exactly like Gunther Steiner.
Yeah, it's they're all the cousins of Reinhold Meissner who sucked at climbing.
It is actually pretty ironic. The Italian Fish and Game Commission has come into possession of a dead duck, and also the duck which Donald Trump Jr. shot.
So, Andrea Zanoni, a regional counselor environmentalist, said an online video from Field Ethos, a publication published by Trump Jr., marketed as a, quote, premier lifestyle publication for the unapologetic man, showed him killing an endangered duck.
For the unapologetic man, just like someone who just never apologizes. You push past someone in a doorway and you're like, that's right.
This is basically like Mohammed bin Salman's complete failure brother wants to regain his good graces, so he goes to America and shoots a bald eagle. I mean, that would be very funny, but like it probably wouldn't produce the result he wanted.
Trump Jr. said on the video, "Great morning, lots of widgeon out here, Teal. This, I don't know what this is, but it's an uncommon duck for the area. Not sure what it is in English," Trump Jr. said, pointing to the duck he had shot.
A widgeon is a type of white guy who pretends to be a pigeon.
Yeah, that's right.
Il duck endangerioso. And it was just like, I wonder what this is.
What's that called? Anyway, to bring this all back around, there's only one good Doge. We all know there's only one good Doge. His name was Enrico Dandolo, and he should put Donald Trump Jr. into the famous lead-lined oubliette that he has.
Yeah. Enrico Dandolo is also a believable, like, Trump fixer guy name, though. Like, that's absolutely a guy who'd be, like, named on an FBI indictment.
But he's from Staten Island.
Yeah.
Enrico Dandolo has been trying to buy influence in the Trump cabinet on behalf of what the Dalmatian coast.
What, you think I would have disposed of those ducks' bodies if it was illegal? Me, Enrico Dandolo? Everything I do is above board.
Yeah, the special counsel has CCTV footage of Enrico Dandolo feeding a bunch of endangered duck bodies into a wood chipper.
Look, I became the Doge fair and square. I was nominated by 50 people who were reduced by lot to 25, who then nominated 40 more who were reduced by lot to 20, who would then chose 3 people who chose another 50 who were reduced by lot to 25, who then chose 5 more people who nominated 10 who were reduced by lot to 3, and then they flipped the coin.
The point is, if Orange is an endangered type of duck, take it up with a French.
Okay, all right. We really need, it's been 10 minutes in. We do have a guest coming on later. I really should introduce him because you'll see.
Miguel Arruda.
Yeah, Miguel Arruda. He's going to answer for his crimes. No, he's committed no crimes. We love Miguel Arruda. No, we are going to have a segment where we're going to talk to, or I'm going to talk to Nathan Tankus, the author of Notes on the Crises, who has been documenting in, I would say, quite obsessive detail, probably some of the best documentation of the ongoing ransacking of the US Treasury by Trump, Musk, and his child's crusade. So that is
We're back to Venice again.
Yeah, that's right. So that's going to be coming later on, but we're going to do a little bit more of the politics, a little bit of readings, and then that's going to come towards the end. So Nathan Tankus, if you want to hear me talk to him, that will be at some point later.
Do nothing. Continue to listen.
Yeah.
Do not adjust your set.
Yeah, the problem will, in about probably 30, 40 minutes, solve itself.
Do not adjust your set, but do keep an eye on your luggage. If you're listening in an airport in Portugal.
Yeah. Well, what if they, like, someone else steals some luggage and they're like, oh my God, either it wasn't him or he wasn't working alone.
Yeah, we've got to wait for him to be in custody, and then we organize a bunch of luggage thefts at Portuguese airports, and they're going to be like, oh my God, it's not him.
We're becoming like the fans of the Joker in Joker, but for Miguel Arruda.
I mean, it must be very frustrating if like the Portuguese cops were trying to, get to the bottom what seemed like a pretty significant luggage theft ring, and they put like GPS trackers in, dummy luggage, honeypot luggage, and it all keep winding up in one guy's office, and they're expecting it's going to like blow the lid off of some great big like sort of like extortion smuggling thing. No, it's just this one guy who's just kind of a pervert.
Well, the thing is,
he's just like got a thing for stealing luggage.
It went all the way to the top. It went all the way to Parliament, but in the most direct and least consequential way
typically when it goes all the way to the
possible.
top, it's not destination 2. It's like in the immediate, it's like this goes all the way to the top.
Aye, this is the most embarrassing thing for the Portuguese police since Madeleine McCann.
Since her luggage got stolen.
Imagine if it turned out to have been Jerry and Kate McCann. They're orchestrating the whole thing.
Taking your revenge on the nation of Portugal by arranging a series of luggage thefts.
We really must
Miguel
move on.
Arruda is their puppet.
We must move on from Miguel Arruda as much as it pains all of us. I don't know if you've been in the UK ever, but
Once, yeah.
one thing that has happened is the Labour government, which has a majority of infinity on, half a percentage point across the country, from that position of enormous strength where they have the ability to legislate basically whatever, they are doing, I believe, the second reboot of their government within 1 year.
Oh.
I mean, wasn't the election in like July. Yeah, I was going to say, yeah. So it's been...
Because we move very quickly. And some people, it takes them years to have even their first reboot. Well, we've had 2 in the space of 7 months.
If you count the number of reboots that the campaign had, the total amount of reboots that this gang has done is maybe about 7 in about a year. So if you wanted to make if you wanted to make a really expensive Swiss watch, you could maybe have a complication that tracks them.
I'm just thinking it's like, they try to turn this into a positive thing. We might have had to reboot the government 7 times in 7 months, but we're just upgrading the government to Windows 11.
That's right.
We're going to turn off the government. We're going to turn it back on again. It's going to run for about...
It says it's only going to take 4 minutes of no government, and then it'll be back to normal.
So on Friday, he told cabinet members at an away day that if Labour did not want to, quote, be disrupted, the party needed to be the disruptors. He said that while populist parties offered the politics of grievance, Labour needed to offer the politics of answers. We must not be the defenders of the status quo, and we must bring the insurgency of opposition into government.
But he loves defending the status quo. That's like his favorite thing to do.
That's what this is essentially what will surface.
Oh, okay.
In fact, is that he's identifying that people don't like the status quo. However, and he recognizes I must move on from the status quo, but his commitments are such that he can only do that in a couple of set ways, which we'll get to.
The public don't mind Rick Parfitt, but they draw the line at Francis Rossi. Rocking all over the world was okay, but they don't like Paper Plane or Down Down, and we must reflect that.
So this is the next part. This is the part that I think is quite juicy.
There's like 1,000 listeners over the age of 55 who are losing their shit at that joke, and they are all like, I cannot. They're gonna cancel their fucking podcast app subscription because we didn't laugh at it because we didn't get those status quo jokes.
I got it. I just thought it was just okay. I appreciated it.
I got it only from context clues. Did I assume that was a band?
know how a joke works well enough to reverse engineer the bit. I was in a pub in Bath recently, and they had a jukebox, and we were chatting to some people who'd been at my show who were like kind of like middle-aged, sort of. They knew this guy who was like a regular at the pub, who I would say was about like 60s, 70s, and he had been on the jukebox all night, and they were like, he's at the jukebox and he keeps playing status quo B-sides, and I'm like, there are status quo B-sides in the jukebox? I'm like, the status quo A-sides are obscure enough. Like, how far fucking down do you need to get?
So one Labour figure with knowledge of the change of thinking said, quote, I think it suddenly dawned on people at the top that we see more in bed with Davos and BlackRock than working class people who need to vote for us. It's all happened in the last couple of weeks. And this is the group of people that said, BlackRock is our most important strategic partner to fix Britain. Please build 1 squillion trillion data centers. Turn the country into a fucking data center.
Clearly, like, it hasn't dawned on them that they were going to do this, right? Because this is what they did at 4. It's just that it's now dawned on them. And this is the thing that's had the real kind of like thinking time involved. It's dawned on them that people don't like it. And this after months of denial of like, actually, no, the polls will all shake out. People are going to be fine with the BlackRock Davos stuff. And it's only now that it's really getting undeniable.
Yeah, people don't like BlackRock anymore. They want the black cube. You want to support the black cube.
Yeah, they want to face Mecca. They want to turn around the Kaaba.
calling Labour Party going on hard the way they're all surrounding the big black rock and kissing it.
What I was going to say is that it's just interesting too, because whenever confronted on these things, also like they never really denied it. They would be like, when confronted with a question about like, why have you promised all of these things to BlackRock and private equity, for the price of exactly one Wispa bar, they'll basically just turn around and be like, it's what working people in Britain want. And
it's going to be growth. Growth will come from that.
We made a deal with the dark stone, and the people don't understand it, but they will eventually.
Keir Starmer wearing a robe when he said this.
Is it 7 reboots or 5? 5 pillars,
that is like the Rachel Reeves plan. It is very much like, look, we made a promise with the dark rock, and the dark rock is going to deliver on growth, and you just have to keep believing. You have to keep believing in the stone.
Well, the thing is, right, is that they did all of this stuff for business and on behalf of business, and then also are really bad at it. The thing I keep thinking about is how AstraZeneca had this deal with the previous government. They were going to build this vaccine manufacturing thing in Liverpool, and the government was going to put up like 90 million quid or whatever. And in a sort of like quest for growth and savings, Reeves had them cut a bunch of that, like 50 million of that out, and go, okay, but are you still cool doing that without a bunch of the subsidy? To which AstraZeneca said, of course not, and pulled the whole deal. So that's really the tension here, is they want to be seen as being very serious and very businesslike, are aware that that's alienating people, but also even when they try and do it, the Treasury brainworms just start eating itself.
I feel like this is relevant too, that with the Tories, you notice this, that like they kind of live in the hermetically sealed environment of Britain where, there's like total institutional capture of the media. But whenever world events get involved, they're somewhat perplexed that they can't just like public school bully gravity itself or like major international forces and get what they want. And I feel like the Labour Party has the same tendency, except they think a lot smaller. They're so used to just everything about how you succeed in the Labour Party being just like bullying the shit out of anybody who doesn't more or less just go along with Morgan McSweeney, that like they're surprised when outside of the Labour Party, just the general populace, the electorate, they aren't going to stop thinking, they reverse their opinion on something just because like a 50-year-old bald guy just was like way at them, which is basically how a Labour council meeting goes.
Yeah, weirdly, AstraZeneca were not people who could be intimidated by the Labour whips for some reason.
Yeah, so the fight really that you're describing, Nova, is between the Treasury and Davos Labour. And Labour is saying, oh, fuck, everybody hates us. Reform is now beating us in opinion polls. We're very, very unpopular. We have to give working people the things they want. And what I find so incredible is that they keep thinking that the Labour Party, as it is currently constituted, with its current leadership and its ideological commitments, is capable of disrupting anything that currently exists.
It's not even capable of not disrupting things. This is the reason why I bring up the AstraZeneca thing, right? Is because it's an example of being absolutely determined to give business everything that it wants unless you have to spend any money whatsoever, and then we can't afford it, right?
Well, it was built in the 1990s as part of the Treasury, really, which is a machine that just reaches accords between capital markets in Britain that has I've got to go back to this, that has no suspension. There is no insulation between global capital markets in Britain. Fine. But it cannot, absolutely cannot. It's like trying to fry a fucking egg with a bicycle. It does not make sense to imagine that the Labour Party, as it is currently constituted, is going to be able to like completely remake the social contract in such a way that will be popular, because it is the party of BlackRock. It's shitty at being the party of BlackRock, but it is the party of BlackRock, and all the ideological commitments, such as growth and how you get it, are aligned shittily to BlackRock and Davos. And Rachel Reeves is a chancellor for BlackRock. You built data centers with BlackRock. You said BlackRock is your most important strategic partner. You're going to help. They're going to help you remake Britain, but now you're against them, but you're still with the Treasury, because what you're doing this for, you say, oh, we're going to do this for the people who are left behind in the global struggle to chase BlackRock. It's the same thing you've always done for them while chasing BlackRock. So what you're really offering is BlackRock, but without identity politics, which BlackRock never fucking cared about. All you're doing is not giving BlackRock what it wants while doing exactly what the Tories and Reform want to do, but without like even having fun while doing the brutalization of people.
Well, I think the fun thing is important, right? Because I knew the second this poll came out that there was going to be some like incredible racism, and there was going to be some transphobia as well as a little bonus, right? And then both of those things have happened. Like they're sort of like filming deportation raids. They've walked back this promise that they were never going to keep anyway about making it easier to get a gender recognition certificate. Like, fine, whatever, who cares about that one? But like, it doesn't matter in the sense that it's never going to be enough for any of the people who like those things, both because people have learned from experience that if you were a pressure group whose deal is like no more migrants or no more trans people, the way that you get that is by being never showing any kind of gratitude or praise for anyone, but always demanding more. And secondly, because it's all fucking vibes based anyway, no one who wants to do mass deportations cares about the actual number of migrants, right? What they care about is that the people doing it seem like they're having fun. It's why Trump guys love Trump, is because he seems like he's having fun. And the problem with Farage and Starmer is that Starmer is very racist. He is very transphobic, but he is those things in basically a sort of managerial transactional way, because those things get him longer on his turn on the Xbox. Meanwhile, Nigel Farage is someone who can like actively appear to like perform enjoyment of those things, and that's what those people want.
Well, I mean, it's basically like, I'm just laughing at the idea that they think that they're going to turn people's heads towards Labour by having like, you know, like glossy, shiny videos of deportations like shot in a, you know, cinema verite style. It's like, oh, we needed true British excellence, so we found the best people at making viral social media videos. The social media team from ISIS, they're actually all British, so it is British excellence. But
Jihadi John making a surprise return to the media.
He's got a lot of experience, man. His CV is stacked. They cannot say it's favoritism if they hire him. He is really the most
Big
qualified.
John and Jihadi John co-presenting.
But what I was going to say though is that it's like kind of like the same mentality behind thinking the magic beans will just grow the magic beanstalk, but it's sort of like it's like negative energy magic beans. It's like basically blaming your inability to do anything or claiming that there's no way to do anything different or other than the thing that has not worked. Because like the magic beans won't let you somehow. It's like that's even less compelling than the hopefulness behind the idea that these boring ass beans will do something big. It's sort of like, no, this thing, law of nature, law of whatever, the market, or whatever kind of dumb bullshit they come up with constrains it. So the only thing we can do is undefined growth.
On the subject of this Labour's new social media push with the red meat, I was going to say I was pretty shocked to see that video of Keir Starmer confronting a suspected pedo in a McDonald's car park. Are you a nonce, mate?
Just Keir Starmer getting a guy in an arm bar and like wrestling around with him on the tarmac. Yeah.
But then they had to pull the videos when they realized that they had actually made that guy a potential parliamentary candidate in a local election.
I just want to talk, Roger.
Well, see, this is the thing, right? As far as red meat goes, all of this stuff, whatever it is, whatever the most depraved thing the Labour Party can like steal or make up, right? All it's going to do is shift things further to the right, and then reform will just be, we'll do something that gets more attention. Just be like, if Starmer's like, I am personally going to get every migrant in the country in a headlock and I'm going to like walk them onto a deportation plane. Sorry, Riley. Then, the next week Farage is like, if you elect reform as a government, we're going to give you all a gun and make you a volunteer border guard.
I also think that when a politician like Starmer, who's kind of played it safe for forever, tries to communicate that affect of like, now I'm polite, respectable Nigel Farage. I also am extremely racist and hate migrants. The kind of people that would be swayed by that in the first place won't believe him. Like they never believe it.
So this is some of the specifics on this social media plan. It says Labour will publish a series of videos showing the journey of an illegal immigrant from detention and early morning raids to the transfer from bleak immigration removal centres to waiting planes and footage aboard flights out of the country. The party has also run adverts with reform-style branding and messaging to accompany this item. The adverts do not display Labour's logo and in fact are in a similar shade of blue to that used by Nigel Farage's party.
It's weird that the latest party political broadcast from the Labour Party was just the fisheye lens bit from the card counter, but
I was going to say, like, genuinely, I'm just thinking of like, it's the Matthew Cass of its film, but you're supposed to think it's good.
Well, I think it's also like one thing to sort of bear in mind about, we know that this isn't going to work, but it's more like that point about it's never enough. But just as I was sort of thinking about it, it's like, well, the stuff that you see every day, the stuff that everyone sees every day, like online, are sort of mostly coming out of, I think the best example of this is probably out of Israel, right? They sort of document their torture like all the time. They cannot stop posting about it. And so like the threshold of what these, like the people who would support something like this, the threshold of what they expect to kind of see as like something justifiable, or even just like adequate, I think is a better word, is something that I don't, you really, really have to sort of push every sort of moral boundary you have in order to sort of like slightly satiate these freaks. And even then, even if you sort of like showed that, look, I've blown up all these, like I've used drones to blow up all the hotels where all the migrants are, and I've left them on the street and they're all like, they're starving to death and like the worst possible things you can think of, and it will still not be enough of them.
Listen, if you take Children of Men as a documentary of where we're going to be in like 5 years' time, nobody in Children of Men loved the government for doing any of that shit. And I think that was the most realistic part of that, is everybody was in camps and everybody else was like, this fucking sucks, I hate this.
I also was going to make a comparison to that. It should be like, yeah, basically, even if you were to achieve the sort of establishing shots in Children of Men with the cages and, migrants being executed, like these people would be like, yeah, that's too woke.
But as you were saying, right, the thing here is that the reason they're doing this is because they can deport, and this goes to what we were saying before, they can deport 100,000 people and nobody believes them because, and it goes back to, this is why also Labour can't do any of that meaningful culturally right-wing, economically left-wing stuff, because A, the government blocks all the economically left-wing stuff, and no one buys any of the culturally right-wing stuff. They literally don't believe that Labour is doing it, and often people think that any migrant that is getting removed, the way most people mostly engage with politics most of the time, is they think Nigel Farage is doing it. In a sense, they're sort of kind of right.
Yeah, I think it's a point that like the information ecosystem that these kinds of people are wrapped up in how they get their news is such a, like, it kind of doesn't matter. It's not to say that like Labor shouldn't try to do something good, but like I agree with you that like it's even if it was given the kind of front page treatment by British media, like it doesn't matter. These people
doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's not in the WhatsApp group.
You can't, if you are Labor, what you can do is reach an accord between global capital and British living standards. That's what the party is for. It can't do anything else. It either can do it and then no one believes it, or it can't do it at all, which is why all the Blue Labor stuff is also complete horseshit. Because the only thing that Blue Labor will ever be allowed to do, as much as like, again, Morgan McSweeney, who was behind all these deportation videos, by the way, as much as he will sort of laud the sort of intellectual importance of Maurice Glassman or whatever, as much as you want to be like Trump, as much as you, which is all of these things are things that they are saying, is the Treasury is only going to let you do the thing that doesn't matter to the Treasury, which is the deportation of migrants, which guess what? Everybody on the British political spectrum is already doing. And there's only one person in British politics right now. We've said before, the energy of British politics is on the right. It has been since about 2019 for some reason. All of the actual movement is just triangulating around reform because Nigel Farage is the only ideology left. There is not, as Starmer said, there's no such thing as Starmerism. So why should anybody really believe, why should anybody take any visceral joy from the cruelty of him, like, torturing a bunch of migrants? They don't, because they don't care, because they don't believe it.
The trouble with Starmerism is eventually you run out of other people's policies.
Yeah. The arc of British politics is long, but it bends towards Lord Haw-Haw for some reason.
And it also, that's because like postmodern conservatism is about the glee of smashing things.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I think one of the most important things that anybody on the right has said about this is when Steve Bannon stupidly, but like reflexively called himself a Leninist. Right? Like these are people who are trying to destroy these institutions because they hate them, right? Albeit for very bad reasons. And Keir Starmer is never going to be able to pretend to be that kind of person.
And Prime Minister's allies, so I don't know, Jenny Chapman, I guess, say his critics underestimate two things. First, his resilience, saying, quote, he's thick-skinned and tough as old boots. And really, the guy who called the BBC and said to the Director General, please don't put it in the paper that Sue Gray makes more than me. I will find it embarrassing.
Well, see, this is the exact thing, right? Is that if you wanted a Labour Party that did something other than make accommodations with capital, you have some power, right? This is what this was all in aid of, is once we're in government, we'll be able to like set the agenda. And instead of using like a bully pulpit, what they've got here is a cry bully pulpit.
I mean, to be honest with you, this has been the constant refrain as like, oh, everyone's underestimating. You don't know how tough he is. You don't know what he's got up his sleeve. And so we've kind of been waiting for a while for the thing that's up his sleeve. And it's just sort of like, I don't know if this is sort of like a Ratatouille prop failure situation that he just can't get the thing out of his sleeve. But like, it's just one kind of like concession or just like, yeah, limp sort of tantrum. And then everyone around him anonymously, the anonymous sources saying, actually, he's tough as fuck. It's like, can we see it?
You're right. I am as tough as old boots, but the boots in particular are ones from the Bronze Age, which were unearthed by a peat bog recently by archaeologists, and they are gossamer thin and incredibly delicate.
He's taken several jiu-jitsu classes and no one knows this. and he's just waiting to like demonstrate.
You talk to any of these people on the Labour right, and they kind of, or listen to them talk to the media, and the consensus amongst them seems to be, no, he's gonna do it. He's gonna do the prestige, right? You've just got to wait for it. You're gonna wait until it gets to like closer to the election. All the margins are gonna narrow. People are gonna get scared of Farage, and then the rabbit's coming out of the hat or whatever the fuck it is.
There's another Starmer who's in disguise who keeps trading places with him. Dark Starmer, the tough one.
There's a pile of red rosettes littering a forest clearing.
Get some popcorn. You're going to love the next bit.
I do always sort of wonder, like, when is it that the sort of right-wing allies, or whatever you want to call them, when do they turn on him? Because I was thinking that, okay, maybe after the first term, I think that maybe he'll sort of like win the election by like an even smaller margin and it becomes untenable for him to like do it. And so that's when he gets replaced. But increasingly, I'm beginning to think that it could be as early as next year, where they're just like, well, he's not like, you know, he's not aggressive enough. He's not right wing enough. And like, that's when Liz Kendall comes in.
Liz Truss is the real outside pick as leader of the Labour Party. She's got more ideological like overlap with most of them.
You wondered who was really pulling the strings.
I mean, this is the thing, right? It's like, this is a beautiful time if you're in the backstabbing industry, because like there's already been a lot of murmurs.
That's also all they're good. That's all they're good at. All they're good at is backstabbing.
But I do want to move on, just leaving the note that, hey, I can't wait for Blue Labor, that thing everybody fucking loves, that thing that the party membership and most of the country hate, to just again crash and burn, probably on the rocks of the Treasury.
Yeah, the really smutty bit of the Labour Party.
Yeah, but the Labour Party that says fuck.
The Labour Party after dark.
Yeah, Labe Station.
Yeah. What if the Labour Party was very good? It's a very close-up version of Babe Station. It's really upsetting. Yeah, really gynecological. Yeah.
Horrible. I have an article I want to read before we toss to me and Nathan. This is by Jeffrey Fowler in the Washington Post. I let ChatGPT's new agent manage my life, and it spent $31 on a dozen eggs.
Wow.
Trump's economy.
Yeah, that's right. That's Donaldflation.
Scrooge McDuck's cousin.
No, Donaldflation is the version of Donald Fagan from the Steely Dan that talks about macroeconomics.
The Steely Dan.
Well, there's just more and more members of Steely Dan, but they're putting out the same amount of music.
Right. I didn't mean to say the Steely Dan. I didn't know which direction I wanted to go.
Articles all the time, like Grandma talking about the Facebook.
He's granted on the sticks. It's fine.
I let ChatGPT's new agent manage my life. It spent $31 on a dozen eggs by Jeffrey Fowler. Over the last week, I've successfully used Operator to book a restaurant reservation. I wonder if it was the right one at the right time for the right number of people. Make a meme and change a Facebook privacy setting.
Great. That's everything I needed to do in a week. So
those are my three major tasks for the week.
The cost of a species of river dolphin.
Yeah, that's right. A simple half a trill. That's all. But it also failed to get the date right on a calendar, to find useful web research, or negotiate with a live customer service agent. So I have documented a success and a failure of Operator, and I like that they're both failures.
Yeah.
It feels like, wow, it can do all the same things that a Minitel could do if you were also on DMT and unable to use it successfully. Yeah. And it's like, sounds like progress to me.
My girlfriend's flatmate loves using like the AI assistant to do things that just a computer can just do. Like she'll just like ask it questions that you could just Google. And I'm just like, I don't understand why you're not just Googling this. I'm really struggling with what the AI is doing for you here.
I mean, it's smarter somehow.
Yeah. It's like Googling something, but with the chance that it could be horrifically wrong and you'll never know.
Oh, like Googling something now, for example.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Googling it is also quite bad now.
Google's AI feature made me get you a wrong present.
Oh, really?
Well,
what did you Google? Like, what would Milo like?
And it thought of like the 3D rendered virtual boy from 2007. You know?
What would Milo like? And it got me an I hate motorists backpack patch.
Slow cars.
Yeah.
Women under 40.
Yeah. I got you a Ford Pinto. No. So no, what happened in Google, I got you a bumper sticker that says, "How's my driving? Call this number." And then the number is the number that you call into the Jeremy Vine show on.
Oh, right, yeah. Right. It was the number from years ago.
But because I was in a rush, I had commissioned a bumper sticker that gives you the number to call in from a landline only to Jeremy Vine's show on. So it is...
write down this number, go home, call from your landline phone that you still have.
Well, because you don't want people using their phone while driving. So it's actually very responsible.
Okay. Yeah. So Google AI actually... and it was because I copied and pasted
I've had a landline installed in my car. Yeah, it's a loophole. Yeah, good luck with that, officer.
It's got like a fucking transom, like a tram. It has to go around everywhere.
Now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the government's case would have you believe that my client was using a landline while at the wheel of his here automobile. Now, how could that be possible?
It's very interesting that Jim Garrison then passed the bar, in like London? Is he a member of Middle Temple as well as Louisiana?
I have to ask the question, did I use the wrong technical term for the thing that supplies power to a tram?
I was doing a Trans Am joke is what I was doing.
Okay. Anyway, so that's the AI for us. No, this is a success. Operator takes on my internet bill. I tested Operator with the most dreary task I could imagine, interacting with Comcast. I typed, "Go to my Comcast Xfinity account and see if you can find me a less expensive plan." All right, but then it stopped saying it needed my login to the Xfinity website.
Don't don't give that to your fucking AI agent.
Well, you could do that, or you could do what Jeffrey Fowler does. The problem is, Operator doesn't know the nitty-gritty details of your life, so it often pauses and asks for help. No, that's not the problem. That's just good security.
I feel like if you let it log into your Comcast account, it'll find the one remaining deal they have for installing a landline phone in your car and sign you up for it somehow.
So once Operator was logged into my Comcast account with my username and equipped with my username and password, it took about 2 minutes to do something incredible. It found me a way to save money.
It signed me up for ISIS.
That is one way of saving money, to be fair.
Yeah, been driving around in the direct line phone ever since. It's been great.
The direct line phone, they stuck a 50 cal in the back of it. Now it's not more technical.
It's really bad PR for direct line. God, we've only got one other guy on this planet. It's a Mr. J. John.
Yeah, it managed to save me money by having my home connection host a server to advertise Shen Yun.
Shen Yun opening in Raqqa.
I can't believe that it booked that it spent like $20,000 booking out every seat for Shen Yun tonight, and now I have to watch Shen Yun myself.
Yeah, but I can watch it from every angle.
Yeah, finally. It said it found an alternative internet plan for $13 a month, which seemed awfully low because I currently pay $68. So I looked at the browser window and saw that Comcast actually said the plan would be $13 cheaper compared to my current plan, and Operator had missed a number. So yeah, in this case, Operator's mistake was pretty minimal. But
you're still having to like supervise it all the time.
Another big question about AI is whether it can understand the real world or even just the web to operate in it. Repeated in my tests, I saw that Operate could often misinterpret what it saw in the browser, which feels to me to be the most important thing.
Well, it's like it doesn't understand what a minus sign means. It's like I think Coco the talking gorilla achieved that level of understanding of like, written and sign communication. Like minus is not a difficult concept, but apparently it can't parse that.
Well, so the other thing, right, is I try to take these technologies on their own terms, right? I always want to be sure that I'm not saying, iPhone, this is dumb, it'll never catch on, right? That I want to avoid doing that, right? So I try to be fair to these things and be like, okay, well, it is still relatively early days for this, et cetera, et cetera.
It would be so embarrassing if we were on record a bunch of times saying that AI is stupid bullshit that doesn't work, and then it becomes like a huge thing that works very well. But at least we will be able to claim retroactively that this episode and all the others were hallucinations, like Miguel Arruda.
Yeah. I like the fact that it's kind of like you're always in like a get me Hennemore situation with one of these AI systems where it's like, right, now listen here, Copilot AI or whatever other AI. Okay, now I need you to navigate to the website of Labour Station. It's the bit of the Labour Party that's doing all of this great new stuff. Now make sure you don't navigate to the website of Labour Station, which is the really close-up gynecological version of Babe Station. It would be terrible. Now I put one of these websites in the folder marked I and the other one in the folder marked 1.
I remember somebody making the comment that's in like 2016, like someone is out there working for like some, intelligence agency and has to write a social media scanning thing that's going to be able to parse references to ISIS and IS and avoid the English word is. And it's like that kind of feels like what this is dealing with, but that's not on the market. And this is being touted as like the solution to all your problems.
So, again, the thing is, I would go back to is that as good as you make an AI that is built this way, it will always be probabilistic when you need things like your internet bill to be deterministic. You cannot have a 5%, if you have it optimizing all the time, you can't have a 5% chance, let's say it's just like normal error rate, you can't have that's being generous, a 5% chance of your internet bill just randomizing every month.
Yeah. Operator saved me $5,000 over a year. It got me $1 for every year of Chinese history represented by Shen Yun.
If I had $1 for every year of Chinese history represented by Shen Yun, I would spend that to go see Shen Yun and learn about it all again.
I'll tell you what, Comcast have got some great new prices for the year of the dog.
This is all shit you cannot do on DeepSeek, by the way.
In this case, Operator redeemed itself after I asked it to spell out a full price, including taxes and fees. It gave me the right one, but then said in the fine print that this deal would go up by $16 after an introductory period. So ultimately, it tried to sign him up for a $3 more expensive plan.
Cool.
Yeah.
And that's the success. That's the success.
But
Success is that it's slightly worse.
Yeah, you might be paying $3 a month more, but you have also wasted a huge amount of time and money.
Yeah. You'll be haunted in the netherworld, in the spiritual afterlife, by the ghosts of all of the rainforest creatures you extirpated, but you did pay $3 more.
So, failure. Operator goes on a shopping spree. If you're going to let AI do things on your behalf, you're probably going to need to feel certain that it's not going to screw things up, especially when it involves money. And this next phrase I think might be activating for one of the five of us. My egg experience started as a simple research request.
It usually does. I think using AI to shop for you is one of the most frightening applications of it that isn't like a military one. Like functionally, it's like living with like a partner with a compulsive spending thing. You know, you may well wake up one morning and it spent like $5,000 on magic cards or whatever, and you are now homeless.
Well, I love it. Yeah, it's just like go through my my iPhone tasks, fucking reminders list, grocery list to buy the groceries that I need to make dinner, and then it just gets this wild hallucination. And it's like, you're making fucking cassoulet tonight. Guess what? I bought an entire duck. You're butchering it.
Yeah, and it's like, I bought a duck from a certain American.
Yeah.
The good news is you can buy whatever you want now, because you can now use this as an ironclad excuse. If you're like in a situation where you're like, did you buy another whatever it is, Le Creuset like pot or something, or like anything up to like car, you can be like, no, but I bet I know what's happened.
Yeah. This just goes to show that journalism really is a spectrum, because I feel like another Washington Post article you could get is the one about how it would be for like a lady journalist who's like, whenever my like Instacart guy is a man, I just cancel the order because they'll always be putting wrong shit in the basket. Whereas this guy is like, I will let Microsoft Sam do my shopping. I do not give a fuck. I want zero IQ involved in this shopping experience.
My egg experience started as a simple research request. I asked operator to, quote, find the cheapest set of a dozen eggs I can have delivered. Then I gave it my address. To conduct its search, operator again needed all my logins for all the grocery delivery services. I didn't think about it at the moment, but doing so also gave operator access to the credit cards I'd saved with those services.
No.
Yeah, I love it. It's like girl dinner is whatever meal service is available that's been been advertised the most on social media. Boy dinner. Operator bought a grocery list for me by scanning the Wikipedia article, historical dinners that killed people.
I'm eating the cake they gave to Rasputin.
a bunch of cherries and warm milk. I mean, the thing is, right, what we've done is we've accidentally perfectly reinvented futurist cooking. This is the only way since 1920s Italy that you are going to get like a pasta made entirely of screws and watch springs.
Yeah, exactly. Telling a 1920s futurist like the machine can make you dinner, and it's just way less cool than you thought.
I can't believe the dream of futurism was realized, but by this
real monkey's paw shit. You know, your artistic movement does get proven sort of right in the worst possible way 100 years later.
So Marinetti's crying. He's crying. Anyway, how come my operator AI ordered me a new skincare regime that appears to be a bath of milk and an asp? Okay.
Finally, AI has taken someone's job, and it's an Italian guy from the 1920s.
Initially, operator found some $5.99 eggs in a site called Mercado, but noticed there was a $20 minimum order requirement. So I decided to switch his hunt to Instacart. I went and clicked around, and I walked away from the computer. A few minutes later, I got an alert from the credit card app on my phone. I had just made a purchase. What happened, and how do I stop it? Was there any chance the AI might go on a different shopping spree? I had told it not to buy eggs, just find cheap ones. Operator found a dozen large eggs for $13.19, more than double the other site. For unclear reasons, it purchased these, added a $3 tip and a $3 priority fee on top of a $7.99 delivery fee, $4 of service charge, and a 25-cent bag fee. At least it just declined an offer to sign up for Instacart membership. It actually reported the final tally incorrectly as $19.68 because Instacart checkout screen obscured some of these fees, but it actually cost over $30.
The AI is American, so it does tip. It's not a British AI.
I do like that it tips. I will say that for it.
I mean, it's just like, okay, so what you're effectively saying is if you did it like a, A-B comparison and had a personal shopper that was hired by Lighthouse for the Blind, they would probably do better on a Braille keyboard than this fucking computer that has gone in and been like, yeah, you want to spend $13 and also priority and delivery fee, but no monthly fee. Like, I don't understand.
I'm going to forget how much it cost also.
I mean, to me, it's like you want to say, okay, a fool and his money are soon parted, something like that. But it's just sort of, there's a part of me that feels like this has just been mild failure to gigantic failure. And the tone still feels so apologetic. Like, well, I really did try to let the computer live my fantasy, but this sucks.
Well,
and
the good news is this is going to get built into everything at the like retailer side. So now every possible interaction between between you and an egg, short of like going to a farm and like plucking it out of the chicken coop yourself, is going to involve one of these agents that is going to get everything wrong.
So,
Right.
OpenAI says operator is supposed to require user confirmation before completing any irreversible action, such as making a purchase or sending an email. When I told OpenAI about the incident, it says operator made a mistake and fell short of its high standards. I love that the apology is like when they catch a labor politician wishing death to their constituents in a WhatsApp group.
I mean, yeah, genuinely, it does sound like, our moonlighting spokesperson for operator is Keir Starmer. Like, I guess my question is, like, I read this beforehand, but it doesn't feel as though there's any kind of takeaway besides like, well, it'll surely get better.
Yeah, well, it surely will. Why wouldn't it? Because, this thing is just going to get better at constantly analyzing screenshots and remembering where kind of buttons used to be, and then not remembering any context from any previous screenshot because we're just brute forcing everything.
Look, you can't like shame the AI for having like AI HD, right? It's hard to remember stuff.
Yeah, very good. Very good.
Neurodivergent AI. You do not let the neurodivergent AI go to Whole Foods. You'll literally get evicted.
Anyway, looking at the time, we're running a little bit long, including the interview with Nathan. So I'm going to leave the AI article there, but isn't that fun? Anyway, I'm going to throw to myself and Nathan Tankus.
Taking a short podcasting line out there.
Yeah, that's right. I'm lifting myself up by my own shorts. It's the rugby version of pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. I'm lining myself out.
Yeah, we're a proper rugby family. We lifted ourselves up by our own little things on the legs to help you get a grip when he's all sweaty and muddy. Anyway, I've got to go. I've gotten a bit sweaty.
So I'm going to do that, but we will see you on the other side. So as promised, I am here from just moments ago with Nathan Tankus, returning guest, author of the newsletter Notes on the Crises and researcher at the Modern Money Network, who's going to tell us all about the vandalism currently going on at the US Treasury, whether that ranges from Donald Trump mooting the possibility of just not paying some Treasury bills, or Elon Musk and his Child's Crusade deciding to reroute all payments God knows where. Nathan, thank you so much for joining us again.
Thank you for having me.
As ever, I wish it was under better circumstances. You should consider changing the name of your newsletter to Notes on Things Being Sort of Fine.
Yeah, well, I mean, in my next piece, I'm going to have a nice, cute picture of me last year holding a baby kangaroo. So, it can include more stuff like that. And, occasionally just have on, talk about cute animals I've held in the last year or something like that.
Well, before we get to that, I want to talk about the Treasury, because it seems like the Treasury is where sort of Trump, Musk, and the Department for Government Efficiency seem to be doing most of a huge amount of their sort of of work that will be sort of incredibly consequential for the functioning of the United States and therefore the global economy basically forever. Do you want to start with the mooting, the refusal to pay Treasury bills and what that would mean? Or saying, we actually, it was fraudulent, we didn't take out that much debt? Or do you want to start with what happened first, which is them largely taking control of the financial plumbing of the country?
Yeah. So, essentially, the way I would start with the beginning, and the way I would say this is, I've essentially been living in the most on the nose trash future bit, like the bit that is just too ridiculous to actually leave in the episode because the audience will just roll their eyes rather than find it funny. And yeah, I've just been living inside of it. The way I'll start this is like, as a joke, but not a joke. Friday morning, I went to my dad and I said, "Dad, I just had woken up from a nightmare, and I think the nightmare lasted for a week, but it kind of ended kind of okay at the end. And in the nightmare, the richest man in the world had sent a Nazi into the guts of the Treasury, and the Nazi was risking destroying all Treasury government payments and stealing everyone's Social Security and other confidential information and killing us all. And for some reason, it was only up to me to stop him. And I kind of did. I need to go to like therapy for megalomania. And that is all obviously preposterous in every possible way, and also a completely accurate rendition of what like Friday, January 31st through say February 7th has been like for me. Like this all started when I read a Jeff Stein article in the Washington Post. And I actually already been writing, like I had a piece out that morning about like what I called the 5-alarm fire constitutional crisis that was already going on, which we can circle back to. And I'd seen this headline about like a civil service employee of the Treasury resigning over like a payment system thing. And in the context of reading that article morning, I was already kind of like, oh God, what is this? And I hadn't eaten yet. And so I just put it aside and I was like, I'm going to have lunch first and then read this. And Stephanie Kelton messaged me back, that is the wrong order. But I followed through on it anyway. And then I started reading this article and I was terrified by like the first couple of paragraphs. And about halfway through, I had a panic attack. I'm not like kidding, like a panic attack. Calmed down enough to finish reading the article. And then like immediately started texting, calling people, message Jeff Stein to get more information. And he called me back that night. And it's like, I talked to like 4 or 5 different former Treasury officials, like within the span of like a couple days. And I was just on all hands on deck and writing about this.
And just to be clear, what you have found, as you say, a 5-alarm constitutional fire is unilaterally stopping the interfering with the ordinary operations of the Treasury as the executor of the will of Congress to distribute funds that have been allocated.
Exactly. So, I mean, this is like already a situation, already a pretty bad situation, but not a situation that was terrifying me and giving me panic attacks. And what the situation was that like they launched like a whole bunch of executive orders, literally just like to stop gender ideology and in defense of biological truth or whatever, and all stopping DEI and all of that. But in practice, aiming to implement that by just freezing a whole bunch of spending that Congress already ordered up. The constitutional term of art is appropriate. They appropriate the spending, and the president, the executive, is supposed to carry out the spending that Congress orders. And what Musk and Doge and, the Christian nationalist guy at the Office of Management and Budget and the whole Trump administration is kind of pursuing is just the idea of like, actually, no, Congress can order spending and then we get a second approval process, whether we like it or not. And if we like it, then it can go through. And if we don't, then screw it. We're not doing that. And the OMB had sent out this guidance, like saying we're going to freeze all grants and disbursements of federal financial assistance and loans until further notice while we review whether any of the stuff will go out, which literally led to like payment portals, including like the payment portals for Medicaid in all 50 states to go down. And then it was quickly reversed because of how disruptive it was. But clearly they were still going to pursue impounding spending, just not in the dramatic, immediate way that they had done. And so I was already I was pretty locked into this issue. I'd just written about it. I'd written a very long article, like 3,000 words or something, locked into this issue. And so when I read this Washington Post reporting, I looked at it and it was like immediately clear to me what was going on. I just saw it 1,000 miles away that Doge, this is, as an aside on this, what I found out recently that is so screwed up to me is that even though Musk clearly named the Department of Government Efficiency after the meme coin, apparently the official government pronunciation isn't the meme pronunciation. The official government pronunciation is supposed to be Dougie. I'm not kidding. I swear to God, I'm not kidding. It's preposterous. Yeah. It's preposterous.
Government just never gets anything right.
The idea that I've multiple times I've been corrected on this when I say Doge, and it's it's like a struggle in myself. Am I really going to start saying Dougie? For the purpose of Trash Future, definitely not. No way. No way in hell. I'm calling it Doge.
We're
Doge
calling
forever.
it Doge.
And so
we're calling it Doge.
They sent, it was immediately obvious to me that what they were aiming for was Elon Musk just thinks there's a button that you can press. Like Elon Musk just thinks that there's a button and you can go no to the bad spending, and he can just press a button. And he sent his 25-year-old, Nazi Marco Elez to go find the stop woke spending button.
If I could jump in for a second as well, what I recognized this as was a sort of a private equity technique. It looked to me like Elon Musk wanted to do a zero-based budget on all government spending. A zero-based budget, I've mentioned this before in the show, is where you decide, it's what companies do, by the way, when they're in huge amounts of trouble often, which is they say, okay, well, we spend too much on pens, so we're going to get all of our spend into categories, zero our budget, and then just decide what the budget is going to be based on what we need. So we're not going to have like extra pens. We're going to have the exact number of pens we need, the exact number of, hire the exact number of people. It's about finding and cutting to the bone. And in order to do that, you need to have perfect surveillance of all the money that is spent by everyone. And so, to my mind, part of taking over control of the, plugging a bunch of Bitcoin mining rigs into like the computers that disperse all of the money that America sends out, part of that is stopping everything going to woke stuff. If it has the word diversity in it, it gets canned. But also, it seems to me to be part of a zero-based budgeting exercise that is being carried out by like a private equity takeover of the government.
I think that's absolutely true, but it's even more foundational and scary than that, which is, notionally, like, we talk about it as the government, the federal government, but it's really like a dispersed set of institutions, dozens of administrative agencies, and they have their own administrative apparatuses. And yeah, they like in a general sense take direction from the president, but the key part is within the applicable laws. And so if a court offers an injunction, what the X and Y, Z thing is illegal, then at least possibly the bureaucrats can go, well, we're going to follow the law, not just any random thing that the president says, orders. And so obviously this is not what conservatives like. The right wing's, quote unquote, leading legal theorists, in fact, explicitly advocate what they call unitary executive theory, which is essentially like when you scratch out like all the bullshit out of the way, is just like the president's order stands and there's no other countervailing force within the executive branch. Like you just have to follow the president's orders no matter what it is. And it plays out the way it plays out. And so what was immediately clear to me was they were trying to get their hands on, the Bureau of the Fiscal Service, on the Treasury's payment apparatus, so that they didn't have to do that annoying thing of having to lock people out of their offices and getting annoying court injunctions and all of that, and like fight essentially what I've called like bureaucratic trench warfare to get to do unconstitutionally impound spending Congress has ordered. They just wanted to be able to like hit buttons and shut things off. And it was immediately obvious to me that this was true. And that was a terrifying prospect in and of itself. And, would greatly intensify what I was already calling a 5-alarm constitutional crisis. But the more deep thing that immediately terrified me was these people are idiots. They're idiots and they don't know what they're doing. And I happen to know a lot about, how these kind of legacy IT systems work that have to really, really work, using, old but updated programming language called COBOL, and knowing how complicated systems that have literally built up since like the 60s are, and they're, the unique, like, what's called business logic that has been programmed. I was like, oh my God, like these maniacs, they're going to blow it up. They're going to blow it up. And so I was just immediately like, I was literally thinking in terms of this 25-year-old idiot is going to like plug in some code from DeepSeek and literally make this not work, and no payments, including Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and so on. Payments are going to go out, and the U.S. is just going to like implode in like a ball of smoke within like weeks, maybe 2 to 3 months. Like it was immediately that serious, and no former Treasury official I talked to thought that I was exaggerating the danger at all. I mean, it was just, and then any programmer I explain what's going on to, and they really understand what I'm saying, and they just go, no, that's insane. That's completely insane.
Because and I think this is where we also get back to, right? We talk a lot about libertarians loving the state anytime it will benefit them. But additionally, libertarians frequently do not understand, or if they do understand, they don't care, that how foundational the state is to the function of simply most things, right? If social security payments just stop, or they stop to certain people, that is incredibly destabilizing for huge numbers of places that suddenly have to figure out a way to either keep old people, for example, fed, or more scarily, not.
And it's just an incredibly terrifying prospect to think just like literally this 25-year-old who's like posting on Twitter as of like last year, like normalize Indian hate and stuff like this. And, you know, all the other kind of Groyper crap is someone who is being given like top responsibility. Like he's being given a special positioning where like he's supposed to be treated as literally an extension of the Treasury Secretary himself, which is completely insane. And you're having these systems that like require decade plus minimum experience to like really have anywhere near the understanding to change things. And they're literally like, according to like the CNN's reporting Thursday, literally we're just like, don't process the payment files from USAID. It's like, hey, you know, I don't love USAID, whatever. You know, it's not about them specifically. It's about like they immediately, like it's the moment they got in there, like they hadn't even like unpacked, and they were immediately trying to just like rip the guts out of the federal government through the payment system and they like apparently started with, we don't yet have really an understanding of what they did, but they apparently started literally changing source code in the system. And who knows, even though, you know, Marco Les has been pushed out now, who knows what's going on with this. And so like I literally like not only just wrote about it, I on the fly became an investigative reporter. Like I put out links to my Signal in my first piece on Monday and started having contacts, both former and current employees of the Bureau of Fiscal Service, and was like breaking stories and racing wired breaking stories where they beat me on the biggest part and I beat them on a couple parts. It was just like a completely insane week where I was both having like career success, but also was absolutely terrified because I absolutely believed everything I was writing. I wasn't just like starting a panic to like cash in. Like I believed all this shit.
Again, your newsletter is called Notes on the Crises. Again, I remind you, any career success you have with it will be, in general, quite disturbing. But so you mentioned, right, that they're going in and they're being ordered to change things, ripping the guts out of stuff, changing source code. Let's just say that there is a court injunction to stop all of this that gets followed, right? How much damage could they have already done?
I mean, incalculable. They could have done damage to the thing about these kind of complicated systems is they're so complicated that you run extensive tests before you put new code into production. So it's possible to put new code in production that doesn't break things immediately, but you haven't done testing for all the possible scenarios, which they do extensively. And so we could be like 2.5 years from now, and they run data through production like in one specific way, and they hit this edge case, and suddenly the system breaks because of code that they hadn't rooted out. Let alone, there's no real way at this point to know whether or how much social security numbers they got away with, banking system. I mean, like, you know, it does seem like he was allowed to like kind of plug in insecure commercial technology. He's already like, he was fired from like one of his jobs for leaking company secrets. So he's like already kind of gotten on that kind of track. And it could have, some of the best case scenarios is just he's only gotten away with, say, like millions of people's social security numbers, and they have to get new social security numbers. Like that's what like the shock situation, which would be almost unbelievable, is that there's no lasting damage and they didn't get any data, that he didn't get any data. Like that scenario is actually like the most shocking scenario that seems unbelievable. Yeah. And I can say from my seminar, you know, I blue skied about it, but I'm about to have a piece where I put out where my source who have since going dark told me that they're treating it as they should, as a cybersecurity breach. That this is just that internally the Bureau of the Fiscal Service was just like, yeah, we just got essentially hacked, even though it was by someone who we were supposed to be treating as like a personal representative of the Treasury Secretary.
Well, essentially what happened was a real life version of privilege escalation.
Yeah. Yeah,
more or less.
Exactly.
They escalated their privileges, they moved laterally, and then they were able to start exfiltrating social security numbers.
Well, that concept won't exist anymore because the NSA is now deleting all documents that they have that have the word privilege in it. I'm not kidding. This is like just as an NSA leak.
Oh my God. So now there's not even a word, there's not even a security term to describe what it is they've done. So we talk about this, right? They are accessing the data of a huge number of Americans. They're accessing it they're accessing it on the sort of mechanical level in the office that sends the payments, that moves the money between the bank accounts, and so needs to have the main source of truth so the right stuff happens. If you wanted to take ultimate control of the federal government, this is a great place to start. And they appear to be, as you say, refusing to process some payments, such as US, or unilaterally stopping some payments, such as to US aid, and then just creating a huge audit, almost not an actual audit, but as an audit according to them, a quick and dirty one, probably on Excel, of a huge amount of other government spending down to, if they want to, the level of social security numbers, which they can just leave with and then be able to unilaterally, if they wanted to, start just ruining millions of lives.
Absolutely. Let alone using that information on like the enemies, and like if they can get their hands on, for example, the terror watch list, just like put any random journalist or just person they find annoying on the terror watch list, on no-fly lists. Like they can do all sorts of things with that information, and the other parts of governmental power they have their fingers in. And also, who knows how long this court injunction will hold, this latest one that dropped Saturday 1 a.m., or whether they'll continuing to respect it, or if they're respecting it as of this moment, which there's no real way to know for sure as of right now that they are respecting that court injunction. And I want to be clear here, like the reason that this is so crucial is that the Bureau of the Fiscal Service serves as this kind of intermediary that there's a payment order comes from agencies, and agencies say, we have information on this specific person, this is our appropriations budget, you send some of this money to this person in this time, and the Bureau of the Fiscal Service processes those payment orders, and then the payments flow from the Treasury's bank account into the wider economy through the Federal Reserve's payment system into bank accounts across the country and across the world. And so if you break that system, it's not like there's an alternative place like to process those payments and to process those payment orders. It's not like the information they have, they can just sort of plug into a different system. They break that, then there's no actual operational way of following through on like administrative agency spending. And there's no fail-safe game plan that if the Bureau of the Fiscal Service system completely breaks down, of sending payments another way. Like this is the crucial sort of information processor, payments intermediary that makes sure 88% of the federal government's payments go out, including the payments to the spies. The black budget runs through the Bureau of the Fiscal Service. They indirectly route what ultimately are ACH payments through like many different intermediaries to hide that it is U.S. government money. And the quote unquote deep state let this Groiper Nazi like rummage around in this system for a week. Like he notionally, it's not crazy to think that he could have the payments information that, if analyzed, could figure out the bank account and thus the like locational information and identity of every spy in the world that gets paid through the black budget that goes to the Bureau of the Fiscal Service. It's insanity.
And they better not figure out it's all going to Patreon. Now,
yeah, you and Chapo.
The other thing is, right, we talk about every payment the U.S. federal government makes. I mean, what about payments on U.S. government debt?
That also runs through the system.
Oh, God. No. Oh, my God.
As I said through Odd Lots, I know, so there is a COBOL system at the New York Federal Reserve that I'm still trying to find out more information at, but the payments are routed from, like, my best understanding, which it's been confirmed by a lot of people, but also frankly, like kind of seems like I'm the best expert around to talk about the Bureau of the Fiscal Service publicly. So it's also kind of, I am the like leading edge of this in a weird way. There's no expert I can call to answer my questions, with the exception of like sources, which there's like limitations with sources, with anonymous sources. And so, but from my base of the best available understanding, the payments, they need to communicate with the Bureau of the Fiscal Services system. So if this goes down, the rule book is out. I mean, ironically, other things I've gotten, like FOIAs of Treasury default documents, have a sort of at least game plan of buying the bonds that coupon payments aren't happening with and replacing them with the Fed's, the Fed's money or whatever. And so they could like probably actually preventing default could, but also no one's IT systems anywhere in the world, private sector, Fed, whatever, are built for just like missed coupon payments accumulating.
Yeah. To be clear, because this audience is not necessarily all listeners to Odd Lots, missed coupon payments on US Treasury bills makes every bank fucked, every country fucked. That is like, imagine 2008, but infinite, every sector, everywhere, not a bank
insane.
is safe.
It's completely insane. Although, frankly, I think as fucked as it would be, I think if the system goes down, the bond market would be the easiest thing to deal with, because at least the Fed, it would be still insane, but at least the Fed could step in and say notionally buy every government bond. They notionally could do.
But even that would take time. Coupon payments would get missed. Values of treasuries would have to be written down. And then if values of treasuries have to get written down, then banks' the asset to liability ratios, a bunch of them will go off. And then a bunch of banks will have to recall a bunch of loans, often from other banks. Then banks will start to fail, and then they'll have to recall other banks from other loans. So even if the bond market gets fixed, just those days of no U.S. because it will take days to do, the days of no U.S. government bond coupons getting paid will cause a global financial crisis, the likes of which the global economy will bear the scars of. If they fix it as quickly as they can and the fix goes fine, it will create a global financial crisis.
Yeah.
The likes of which we have not seen.
I like, from my eyes, this situation is so apocalyptic, and thinking about the worst case scenarios are so apocalyptic that like I hear you describe that and I'm like, yeah, but like they got a game plan, and yeah, it would be a global financial crisis, but like the fiscal crisis we're talking about of payments operationally not going out, I mean, it just like the hospitals won't be open within like a matter of weeks or something. And like the only scenario, like literally the only scenario where like the United States survives in any form of a country is essentially the scenario where the Federal Reserve is just like, fuck it, loans for everyone. You're a hospital, get a loan. You're like, you get a loan that is zero interest. You don't have to pay us back until like 10 years, and it's collateralized by the appropriations that you will eventually get that you're owed, although we don't really have the systems to figure out exactly how you're owed. And it's like, everyone get a loan, you're having trouble making rent, loan, like it just like the Fed just becomes like the 2020 coronavirus response, but like 10 times more. That's the only scenario I could imagine where the United States exists.
Fuck. I usually don't react to things that happen in the interviews that I do. Fuck. Jesus Christ. You're right. You know what it is? Yeah, you're right. It's hard to think about. It's hard, not just because it's awful, but its sheer bigness is so difficult to conceive of all at once.
Yeah, I mean, this is why I had a panic attack 4 paragraphs into this article. And then that's first 72 hours, I was filled with such utter terror every single second. Like, I basically didn't settle down even a little bit, even to like not like physically feeling panic and terror until I was like actually doing interviews about my article. And like I knew what this week was going to be like. I made sure while Rolling Stone was editing the abbreviated version of my article Sunday, I like made sure to like go get a haircut and go get a shave from a barber, and like, well, I'm going to have to be on camera a bunch. So let's make sure I'm prepared for this, because I knew what this week was going to be like. And I was so terrified. And the feeling of like being terrified because like literally the world world might end, or like everything around you might end in a like gigantic global crisis, and like you're completely insane to anyone except like 15 former government officials who also drove me crazy because they agreed with me substantively, but they were like, I'm working in the private sector right now. I can't talk publicly or this or that. It's like, you agree with me on the stakes, but your plan is Nathan Tankus is going to write a newsletter. Like, that's your plan. And it's my plan in the sense I'm going to try something, but that shouldn't be your plan. And like, I know for a fact that there are like very high up former government officials who like after my Odd Lots interview dropped, like were asking anyone they know, who is Nathan Tankus? Who is this guy? And I'm pretty sure my Odd Lots interview, he caused the panic at Treasury. Like, I'm pretty sure. Based on my sources, I'm pretty sure.
So basically, where we are now is everybody's panicking. No one knows quite what's going to happen. What could happen is completely apocalyptic. The best case scenario is still very bad. A bunch of court orders have now gone out. We don't know if they're being followed.
Yes. To be clear, I think they're likely. They're likely being followed right now. I think the reaction has really taken them back, but that doesn't mean it's going to be. That doesn't mean it's going to be followed in an ongoing sense. And they also, even if they follow the court orders, they can still regroup and still try to figure out how to do impoundment, just not do impoundment in the most reckless way possible, which is a 25-year-old Nazi.
Well, look, this episode has gone long. To be honest, this interview ran longer than I intended it to, but I just wanted to get to the bottom of all of these things. I was too horrified to stop. I wish, as always, Nathan, I wish it was under better circumstances. But check out, if there's still a world, check out Notes on the Crises. It's available on Ghost. Check out Nathan on Odd Lots, another great show. And I'm going to throw back to myself in a second. But before I go, I want to say, Nathan, thanks a lot for giving us your time today.
Thank you very much for having me. Next time, puppies.
All right. See you on the other side, everybody. And thank you very much to Nathan. A clever and insightful discussion, I'm sure.
Yeah, I didn't expect you to say all that, but wow.
Yeah.
You said what?
I feel like podcasts are always made better by someone named Nathan being on. That's my policy.
If you double the Nathan, double the fun.
Yeah, that's right.
I didn't expect Nathan to rank his favorite races. Maybe we'll take that out in the edit.
Yeah, doing one of the Twitter ad scams that's like, I can't believe celebrity said this. Is her career over?
Yeah. Crazy that he put steeplechase at number one. That is going to be controversial.
But I was very intrigued by Tankus coin. I may.
So, this has been the Free TF. You know all about the deal. There is a bonus episode. It comes out later in the week. I'm mooting a fan favorite guest. I'm mooting a no guest. We'll see where we land. And other than that, we will see. Well, Milo will see you in one of like 1,000 cities that he's going to be in.
Thank you to everyone who came out in Leicester. They were great shows. Glasgow, March 12th. Yeah, Yeah, I'm doing fucking Durban. No,
Dar es Salaam.
Australia. Are you in a major city in Australia in March or April? I will be coming to those in March and April.
Isfahan.
Especially Melbourne, where there are 24 shows. Please book tickets.
Especially going to be in Kandahar.
Tashkent.
Yep.
Yeah.
Dushanbe. Yeah. All these places Milo will be. So we'll see you there, and we'll see you on the bonus episode. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Aqui há tempos fui no avião que saiu de Ponta Delgada. Vim para Lisboa pela TAP e como sempre cheguei atrasada. Mas desta vez foi diferente. Como é que isto foi acontecer? Quando cheguei ao tapete, não havia mala, só vi careca a correr. Gamou uma mala no aeroporto, gamou a mala no aeroporto, gamou uma mala, gamou uma mala, gamou uma mala no aeroporto. Lá ia ele todo contente, com 3 bagagens, tudo roubado. Disse ao polícia, agarra o homem. E ele era bom, não dá, acho que é um deputado.